All right. Hello and welcome to a very quick overview of AI generated visual content. This is a new video that I am putting together just to go over a really key missing component from my chapter in content marketing on visual content. So I'm just going to spend a couple quick minutes going over this here today. So I only have a couple of slides here. It's going to be pretty quick. Um, Really, let's just start with the pros and cons of AI generated content. First off, pros. It's pretty easy to create. It looks more realistic every day. It can be free and you can update your content with additional prompts. This means if you don't like what you create the first time around, you can then go and say, hey, I don't want this. I want something else instead. And it can update it for you. We're also now at the point in time where there are ChatGPT extensions, other platforms that allow you to even select certain elements of an image and specifically request that those be swapped out for something else. There's also, I think you might have seen my video earlier on a GPT called Super Describe, where you can upload an image and then either change that or at request that ChatGPT create a new image that is utilizing the same style, same format that's being used in the one that you upload. So that's really helpful from a branding perspective. If you already have some designs, you can upload them and say, hey, I would really like to follow this format, this look and feel for a new image. Now, the cons also are pretty straightforward. It can be really hard to connect to your brand when you're creating new images. Contrary to what I just said, with these new GPTs and all these new LLMs, um, it's pretty hard to have a seamless transition from something that your brand is known for, and then suddenly having just AI created it. It's not something that's normal. Um, Instead, it you end up creating something that looks very different. And not only is it different, but it's obviously not real. We are at a point where there are some pretty super realistic photos and even videos out there being generated by AI. We see a lot of deep fakes. We see a lot of, now Instagram influencers and even videos of so-called, product reviewers and testers that are not real. They're all AI generated. However, there's still a lot of obvious things missing that do not make them human. And a lot of people can see that. And not only can a lot of people see that, but um, decision makers that are signing off on these AI generated images for brands, they can tell the difference as well. Finally, if you're just creating a one off AI generated image, there's just not a consistent look and feel. And that's really the thing that we're trying to fight today, and make sure that we avoid when it comes to using AI generated images. So let's start broadly. When do you want to consider this? I also want to actually take a quick pause and just mention that I am talking specifically for an entire AI generated image strategy. This is where a brand is getting ready to make the move and say, hey, for one element of this brand, we are going to strictly use AI generated images. It's just going to be less expensive, it's going to be quicker, and there are benefits to using that. I have made this switch here for two clients in particular, and both have seen some really nice returns in terms of one, engagement rates on social media, but then two, um, longer time being of users spending on the website. I don't think this is just a coincidence because I've seen both of those things, both of those changes occur since I integrated more of an AI generated image strategy. But so when do you want to even consider this? Because it's not for everybody. It's not for every brand. One, your brand needs to already use a lot of stock photos or images. So when that happens, you really don't have much to lose. You're already using, some would say, AI generated stock images. Um, but with that, if your content and your message is really hard to illustrate, anything about a digital marketing topic is going to be hard to illustrate unless you use stock photos. There's lots of stock images out there of like of what looks like an iPhone, and then there's maybe an app icon. So you can use that, and that's what a lot of brands do use. If you're looking to differentiate yourselves, that's a good, if your company is like that, then that's a good opportunity to get into the AI generated image space. Another, I don't want to call it a condition, but something that's common is like, hey, if you don't have any budget for photography or designing, you can look here. You can look to AI to help you out. I've done this myself a couple of times for my own brand because I really don't have a budget for this. And it turned out pretty good. You can even get headshots now through AI for cheap. There's a lot of platforms out there that all you got to do is upload any photo and it'll spice it up for you and make it look more professional. Then the fourth one though is really important. You need to make sure that the brand that you're working with has the flexibility to visually extend the brand in a certain direction. And it's not entirely, you're not, starting from zero here with the blank canvas. But for example, one of the brands that I work with where I've extended this to AI, it's all LinkedIn. So everything on the LinkedIn page is now AI generated. And this is a company that does not have a lot of visual assets to work with. And so it's become kind of part of the brand that there is a certain look and feel to the imagery that I am posting on their content that really does kind of people are starting to connect that those themes to the company name. Um, this also requires sign off from really the highest levels because your C-suite's going to need to know that you're using AI generated images for certain communication channels, certain marketing channels. Um, but so too, it's got to be total buy-in. And most of the things I'm talking about here are more applicable to small businesses, medium-sized businesses, but enterprise level certainly applies here as well. I would guess some are already doing it, but you need to make sure that there is buy-in across the organization because you want to make sure that that flexibility actually does exist. So okay, we've decided. Okay, I think we fit the criteria. My brand's ready to do this. So how do we do it? First, create one image with AI for something, for a blog post, for a social media post, for something, and make sure that it's exactly how you want it to look. And hey, like if I create other versions of this with other content, this needs to be something that will work. You want to avoid images with too many words because words are very hard for um, AI to replicate or even type out. Um, but you want to really focus on the colors and the thematic elements. And this is where an additional GPT, a specific GPT, can help, like Super Describe, or you can look to a lot of other programs through Futurepedia where you can upload your own color palette or really work on describing what it is that you want to show. I have a couple examples here. I've used the comic book theme for my own personal LinkedIn posts. I've also messed around with Art Deco for branding purposes. But then there's always the classic futuristic style, because that's really kind of what AI is known for. When you think of an AI generated image, a lot of times you think of something that is more forward looking, robotic hand, as I have in my last slide here in a couple of minutes, and something that is more mechanical. Really, any other visual description that you can think of for thematic elements can be utilized here, but you want to make sure that you just start with one so it looks how you want it. And really, once you have that, it's just a matter of replicating, duplicating that, and moving forward and making sure that what you're creating, that they have a similar look and feel. Now, when we look at couple of final takeaways, those are all great as long as the brands are willing to extend themselves and build I don't want to say just an entirely new look and feel, but it's got to be an extension of the brand in something online or potentially even offline. Um, for mine, there's one on Twitter, there's one for the website, and there's one on LinkedIn, but it doesn't define the brand. It just helps to build and engage an audience. But then two, the second big takeaway is, hey, you need to follow this theme for everything. As long as you want to set some parameters, set some rules for what this is going to be used for. Um, Once you set that, you need to abide by it and go with it. If you go back to stock images on a website, then suddenly you're going to have a big continuity error existing in your brand online. But then finally, remember what the goal here is. You want to be known for this look and feel. You're looking to extend your brand and build a brand that's cost effective and not super time consuming. AI generated images are a great option. And, you want to be known for this look and feel because really, I mean, this is a strategy. AI generated images, this is a strategy and not a one-time thing. It is not something that is you're going to do for one social media post and then never do it again. It's something that you need to really hone in on and really focus on doing. Um, Not everywhere, not for every element, not for every part of the brand, but for a specific, you know, predetermined uh, location where you firmly believe that your audience will find value in it and that it can help build brand awareness long term.